So I would like to start by thanking the organizers and Mo, because the first time we came here to Miami was in 2015. The project was only about a group of founders trying to bring smart contracts to Bitcoin. And now, 5 years later, we are an organization with more than 100 people around the world in more than 20 countries, with more than 55% of Bitcoin hash rate merge mining RSK. So it's been an amazing ride of the last 5 years, and now we have the RSK infrastructure framework, the services built on top of RSK, and now the inclusion of Terena, the largest Latin American social network, is part of the group as well. So we'll try to review this very quickly today. Coming from Latin America, it was super clear to us the value of Bitcoin as long-term store of value. You know that sadly we have major crises every decade. I myself, coming from Argentina, living with hyperinflation, capital controls, same things we're seeing in Venezuela. So Latin America never followed these trends from the Silicon Valley, like in Bitcoin and then blockchain and then smart contracts and then ICOs and now Bitcoin again. In Latin America, it was always about Bitcoin because Bitcoin is a core tool for survival of our citizens, to protect from government seizure, from controls, and to protect our long-term savings. But when we started thinking on how to provide solutions to these 200 million people, which represent 65% of population in Latin America, we realized that Bitcoin was not programmable enough. So we needed smart contracts and more flexibility in order to build these solutions. So that's why we decided to create RSK as a built-in block on top of Bitcoin infrastructure. So how does RSK work? RSK is a Bitcoin sidechain, which means that we take Bitcoin and we use it to execute the smart contracts. It's based on the fuel on RSK's basis one-to-one peg to Bitcoin. But not only that, we also allowed Bitcoin miners to merge mine RSK. So that's what I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. As of today, we have around 55% of total Bitcoin hash rate merge mining RSK. This is extra value for the Bitcoin miners at zero cost for them. So this is also creating a positive feedback loop, adding more value to the Bitcoin miners and hence more security. Now, the year 2019 was the year of DeFi as well. Not only the Lightning Network, but we've seen some amazing solutions being built on Solidity smart contracts, on the Ethereum ecosystem, which has shown us a little bit how probably the financial system of the future will look like. And in the same way that happened with Segwit, where we tested amazing new technologies in other smaller blockchains, and then when they were mature enough, we poured them into Bitcoin. We expect the same trend to happen on DeFi. So as of today, we're ready on RSK with this level of hashing power, which makes every smart contract on RSK and Bitcoin several times more secure than any other blockchain in the world, to port and develop these solutions for DeFi, but adding the inherited benefits by being built on top of Bitcoin infrastructure. So we have the immutability, which is one of the largest concerns regarding DeFi and the future fork of Ethereum to Ethereum 2.0 or proof of stake. The security level, so the 51% attack protection coming from Bitcoin merge mining and Bitcoin proof of work, which also adds immutability because it will never change, and this is part of the core components on RSK. It also allows us to scale to billions of users and a significant amount of value to build really the financial future, the financial system of the future. And of course, the decentralization, which is another of the major concerns that are happening in other blockchains due to the size of the blockchain. The concentration is something that Bitcoin through RSK can also provide as a solution for DeFi. I expect DeFi for Bitcoin to be one of the major milestones of 2020, so we'll see how it goes. Last week, a project called Money on Chain has launched their decentralized solution for stablecoins secure and backed by Bitcoin. So you put Bitcoin as a collateral similar to MakerDAO, which is also working to pour their solution on RSK. But in the case of money on chain, the collateral is in Bitcoin. So this is great. This is why we call it DeFi for Bitcoin, because it's an opportunity for Bitcoiners to actively use their Bitcoin to enable additional use cases such as decentralized stablecoins. Now, this is awesome, and we are super excited about DeFi for Bitcoin, but this kind of doesn't solve the problem of the internet, because the internet is still fully centralized. And do you expect in 5, 10 years from now to have two complete different internets, one that is fully decentralized for the exchange of value, and another one that keeps on being fully centralized and managed by 5 big tech companies, either from the US or China? Doesn't seem to be right. So that's where Reef comes into play, RSK infrastructure framework, which is trying to bring the same concepts and paradigms that we've used in RSK, but now to the decentralization of the other pieces of the internet that continue to be fully centralized. So we developed the Lumino network, which enables micropayments, so we can reach with this DeFi on Bitcoin to billions of users around the world. We have a module that is based on ID and decentralized reputation, so the users own their own data. There's also Reef storage, which partnered with Swarm Team, and now it's being integrated with IPFS. So the logic that we are applying to Reef is exactly the same that we apply to RSK. We are not reinventing anything. When we created RSK, we took the Ethereum virtual machine, we added merge mining, and we added the sidechain concept, which were concepts open source being built by the community. The same thing we're doing with Reef. So we are taking the best building blocks that the ecosystem generated and creating an abstract layer to make it very easy for developers and users to interact. We are also applying the same logic of Reef storage to Reef communications. So we are creating decentralized economic incentives so any node can relay messages. The same way that they are relaying Bitcoin transactions and value on RSK and storage, those nodes will also relay communications. So you can build a decentralized WhatsApp if you want, using a fully decentralized network. And the same thing with marketplaces, because the problem now is that if you want to leave a social network or a marketplace, you lose all your track record and history. So the idea is that with these decentralized building blocks, you're going to be able to fork a social network or a marketplace and just keep all your history and track record. Last year, we added Terena, which is the largest social network platform in Spanish in Latin America and Spain, with 30 million registered users and 1,000 active communities, because we understood that we could not just stay with the infrastructure level. We had to prove the use cases and help the network effect to build. So this is what we're planning to do with Terena. Everything that we're building is open source, so then it's going to be open to other global communities, but just with that boost of users testing and giving us feedback and using this technology. So to summarize, this is how the IOB Labs stack looks like. IOB comes from Internet of Value and is the holding organization where all the different RSK, Reef, and Terena projects are held and developed. We have a basis with Bitcoin for the infrastructure and the store of value. Then we have the flexibility of RSK smart contracts on top of Bitcoin infrastructure. Then all the DeFi components being built by the RSK partners with stablecoins, derivatives, asset tokenization platforms, and so on. And then you have the Reef infrastructure services that are actually creating a positive feedback loop and adding and enabling even more complex and distributed use cases. And on top of it, we have the Terena user base that will be used also to expand this network effect to the rest of the world. What is interesting to remark here is that everything that we built inherits the architecture, the security, and the values of Bitcoin, right? So everything that we're building is meant to be politically neutral, fully decentralized, open source. So we believe in open source software, and everything that we're doing, even the use cases for Terena, are also going to be hopefully an inspiration for other projects, maybe such as yours, to copy and to improve. Always having the user in the center of the stack and protecting we've been saying for the last 7 years, not your keys, not your Bitcoin. So now we need to expand that to not your keys, not your social network, not your chat, not your identity. And the main component of everything that we're building is the purpose, right? So this is the reason why we created RSK and why we extended the stack, is to build solutions for the 3 billion users around the world that are currently excluded from the financial system and the digital economy. So everything that we build, it's in order to provide that level of security and decentralization so we can embrace 50% of global population that is currently excluded from the system. So to finalize, if you want to get involved and learn more, for the developers in the room, you can go to developers.rsk.co, and that's where you have all the content and material of all the RSK or IOB Labs stack. rsk.co/DeFi is where you can find all the initiatives being built relating to decentralized finance. If you are working or related to any decentralized finance project, let us know, contact us. We want to help you benefit and have your service also available on top of Bitcoin security. On reefos.org, you can find all the information related to the Reef services. And on taringa.net, you can see or interact with all the Taringa community. If there's anything you want to do with that community, if you want to open a particular channel, if you want to get this community involved in your solution, feel free to contact us. We can help. Thank you very much.